They call it restoration. They say they can fix you, make you whole again. But once the gates close, it's not restoration, it's control. What really happens inside a conversion camp? Today we're stepping inside. This is what a single day might look like for somebody forced to stay there, inspired by true accounts. 6 a.m. The bell rings before sunrise. No one talks. Talking is not allowed unless a counselor gives you permission. We line up by gender. Boys on the right, girls on the left. Always separate, always watched. You look to your left, and there's a girl crying. You want to reach out, ask if she's okay, but you can't. Girls can't talk to boys, and boys can't talk to girls. After breakfast, you start your moral inventory, as they call it. You write down every impure thought you've ever had. Who you liked, the sex you've had, what you imagine when you're masturbating. The staff member looks directly in my eyes and tells me, be honest in what you write down. If you hide, you'll never heal. 8 a.m. Then comes the group session, accountability. Everyone has to confess. You go around the circle and say out loud what you wrote in your notebook. 9 a.m. Today we're watching a girl get an exorcism. They call it deliverance. You're told to kneel while they shout over you. They touch your forehead, your shoulders. They scream for the spirit of perversion, as they say, to come out of you. You start violently shaking, not from any demon coming out of you, but from your body's natural stress response. You start to believe that maybe there is something wrong with you. That's the worst part. 10 a.m. Physical activity. The sun beats down as we march, run, scrub, or lift whatever heavy chore they assign. Us boys stand in a line and are coached into looking more masculine. No hands on hips, shoulders back, voice low. 11 a.m. We're back inside. The leader quotes scriptures, twists Bible stories, and talks about morality. I nod, try to smile, pretend. While he's talking, I let my mind wander, imagining the ocean, the quiet hum of my room back home. 12 p.m. Lunch. I chew mechanically, listening to the scrape of the utensils, the faint sobs of somebody beside me. I doodle under the table. Flowers, shapes, little bursts of rebellion. Nobody sees them, but they exist. I catch myself sitting cross-legged, but I quickly untie my legs before anybody sees me. It's important to practice being more masculine throughout the entire day. 1 p.m. Journaling time. We're told to write letters to ourselves, confessing failings. My pen hesitates. I think I will not write the lies they want. I rebel. Instead, I write coded messages to myself, tiny truths hidden between the lines. You are okay. You are strong. You are yourself. Even though I'll get in trouble when they read my journal, I have to do this. I have to write this down or I'll lose my sanity. 2 p.m. Time for my one-on-one session. The red-headed counselor calls me in. I step in, head bowed. They dissect my words, my expressions, my pauses. I nod, answer what's required. Looking at the clock, I imagine when I can leave this room. The painting on the wall reminds me of the last family vacation I took before I came out to my parents. The time when my family was more put together. At 6 p.m. I get to call my mom. I get one call a week. I know this program is only for the summer, but I feel like I haven't seen her in years. She asks me if I think the program is working, and I lie and tell her I think it is. I know she paid a lot of money for this. The practice of so-called conversion therapy, efforts to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity, has deep historical roots. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, some psychiatrists and physicians began treating same-sex desire as a mental illness using hypnosis, aversive conditioning, or other techniques to try to reverse it. Recently, I watched a movie called Lily's Not For Me, and this movie is absolutely incredible. It's about gay men in the 1920s in England. A gay novelist and his psychiatric nurse form an unlikely friendship over a series of these doctor-prescribed dates. Through their conversation, he tells her the story of his relationship with an old friend when they turned to a risky procedure to cure themselves of their homosexual desires. The procedure I'm talking about is the idea that if you put one heterosexual man's testicles into a homosexual man's testicles, you basically swap testicles. It's insane, but it's sad, and it actually did happen. They believe that if you did that, you would cure the homosexuality of the gay man. In recent years, survivors of conversion therapy have emerged with stories of resilience, self-acceptance, and advocacy, showing how it is possible to rebuild one's life and learn to love oneself. For example, Gerard Conley, he is the author of Boy Erased. Here is an interview that he did about his new movie based on the memoir Boy Erased. Wonderful movie. I really recommend you guys see it. It's incredible. Him and his mom talk about both their experiences, him going to conversion therapy and her being with him. And the moment she realized this is not right, I need to take my son out of this program.
So who's ready? Welcome to the Refuge program. Come on.
I'm Garrett Conley. I'm the author of Boy Erased, now a major motion picture. Boy Erased is the story of my going into conversion therapy after being outed to my parents and the psychological torture that I endured while I was there.
You cannot be born gay.
Also, it's a story, I think, of my mom who takes me out of therapy and saves my life, and also has to go on her own journey of acceptance.
I'm just here to try to stop conversion therapy because I wish I had done my homework before I took him instead of after I took him, because it's a horrible thing and we need to get it stopped.
Conversion therapy has taken many forms. It's been around since the 19th century, actually. In the 1950s and 60s, there was a hospital called St. Elizabeth's Hospital outside of Washington, D.C. They performed lobotomies, they performed electroshock therapy, they had people in straitjackets. At this moment, 36 states do not have bans on conversion therapy for minors. The bigger battle, however, is that any religious organization can perform conversion therapy and charge for it currently, no matter what state you're in. I mean, I had it pretty easy growing up. We moved to a place called Cherokee Village, Arkansas. We'd always been very much a church family. I'd always been told that being LGBTQ was not right, and I don't think there were any exceptions to that. I think that as I grew older and I started to understand myself a lot more and my sexuality, it became obvious that I was on a crash course with these two ideologies.
Being married to a Baptist pastor and being raised the way I was, we believed exactly what the Bible said about homosexuality, and that's what I was taught, and I just didn't question it because I think you don't tend to question things until it hits your family or someone that you love.
I was actually in my first semester of college. Someone that I knew at the time raped me, and he confessed to me that he'd also raped a 14-year-old boy. Right after he raped me, he confessed this to me. And I told some friends what he'd done, and he found out that I'd told that. And so as a preemptive move, he called my parents, called my mom specifically, because he really wanted it to strike fear, and it worked. And when I came home, Dad took me into his bedroom and said, like, can you explain to me what's going on? And so I told him, I think I'm gay.
First of all, we took him to the doctor and had his hormones checked. You know, that's how naive we were. Then we called the largest Southern Baptist church in Memphis, and they said, oh yes, you're so lucky. We have a unit right here in Memphis, and it's called Love in Action, and they have an 84% cure rate. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, I didn't even know what conversion therapy was.
We did one-on-one therapy sessions after I was outed for about 6 months. I went to a residential program. The main activity that we did was called a moral inventory, and we were asked to write down every sexual fantasy or experience we'd ever had, and we would have to say it in front of everyone, like share that with everyone in the group. And then after that, they would give me Bible verses to sort of combat those thoughts that I'd had. I knew that if I didn't do this, I would lose my family, my faith perhaps, my community. By the end of the second week, I was asked to do this exercise, asking me to imagine my father sitting there and basically say that I hated him. And I remember thinking to myself, these are Christians who are saying that in order to be cured, I have to hate someone, not love someone. And Christ is all about love.
How much were you paying for this?
It was like $3,200, and then we
For
also
just a really short period of time.
And then we also had to stay in a hotel for 2
But
weeks.
his
you know.
quote for you, for me going out for a year, for doing a year's of therapy,
yeah.
how much was that?
Well, it was like $21,000.
Now, this may be the toughest but most rewarding 12 days that many of you will ever face.
We later found out that all the leaders, I mean, none of them had more than a high school education. Within a week, they started talking to me about, oh, he's not following the rules, he's not doing his homework right. I think you need to put him in the 3-month program, and then you need to think about keeping him out of school next year. That was just too quick. It just got so phony to me. And they were like trying to pressure me into signing him up, and he hadn't even been there a week yet.
So who's ready?
Victor Sykes in the film is based off of John Smid, who ran Love in Action for many years, 22 years. And after a while, I don't know if it's because of the negative press or if it's because it got to his conscience, but he quit, he stepped down. And once he stepped down, he began a slow journey of realizing that it was not ever working, that he was selling a lie. And then he married his now husband and lives in Paris, Texas, making furniture.
It just did such damage to me as well because of the guilt that I feel for taking him there. You do it because you think you're saving your child and you love your child. I don't want other parents to have to go through the guilt that I've had to go through for 14 years.
Thank you guys very much for being with me here today. My goal in doing these A Day in the Lifestyle videos is to explore life through others' eyes. Conversion therapy remains legal in 41 US states despite being discredited by mental health experts. It is still a struggle that we are fighting. You can't cure homosexuality, it is just a part of you, and growing up gay myself, I tried to cure my sexuality and it didn't work. I tried to pray the gay away, it did not work. Life is much better when you fully accept every part of yourself, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow.